Go. Can you hear me now? Does that work? Can you hear me? You guys can hear? Yes or no? There's always a delay with StreamYard, so it might just take, yes. Okay, good. We're live. Technical difficulties. There we go. Okay, so while everybody's getting here, but you can hear now, right? Yes. Okay, everybody's writing in. I can't hear anything. Now we can hear. So I'm going to share my screen, and yes, there's mainly sopranos and mezzos here, mainly sopranos, but there are some tenors. So just to give a shout out to the men here, we're going to start with a little tenor action. And I want you to just, as I'm playing these next few examples, I just want you to be thinking about what it means to sing really great high notes, because we're going to get to that in a second. Oh, and just as a note for anyone using StreamYard, if you want me to see who you are and you're posting a comment, just allow StreamYard access. It should say on there a little instruction so that I can see who you guys are, because that will be great. Okay, so here's my screen, and I'm going to play this right here. Okay. Okay, just indulge me. I had to play it to the end because that was amazing. Okay, so could you guys hear that? Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you guys can hear that. Yeah, I just want to cry when I hear that. That's amazing. Okay, let's keep going because we'll never get through to the juicy stuff. Now we're going to break it up. We're going to go to a soprano now. Surprise, surprise. Okay, let's watch this. This is great. I think I have to mute my mic when I play that. Yeah, it's magic. Exactly. Okay. Yes, I think I figured this out. I'll mute my mic when I play the example. Okay, here is our next one. And again, for those of you just joining us, be thinking, because I'm going to ask you this, what are the qualities of a great high notes? Okay. Now let's go to someone you don't know at all. So, all right. That just gets me every time. Like easy, right? Okay. Next one. Now we will go to another magical moment in time. Oops. All right. And for our last two examples, again, for those of you just joining us, be thinking the qualities of great high notes. All right. Here's our last tenor of the evening. Yeah, so that just makes me cry. I picked examples that like just touch me specifically. So right, whole body experience, right? Energized and open and focused. Yeah, this is great. Okay, now for our last example, and I'm playing this for several reasons. If you don't know her work, she's actually, I think, the only living singer that I played who's still living. I think everyone is deceased now, except the singer. And she, I think, just retired. This is her in her older years. I think this was just last year, 2019. It's amazing. And I want you to just see that great high notes can be achieved. Great singing can be achieved at any age. So here's our last selection. And I think for the record, that was like one of her encores after singing a whole concert. So yeah, that, right. Her control is insane. Her technique, it's astounding. Absolutely. So as I was preparing for today, because today I want to kind of give you a foundation of what we're going to be working on in the next 2 days. So today we're not going to be doing so many exercises. We're going to be thinking about the elements that provide the situation for great high notes. What strikes me the most, which I have difficulty with, is the balance of bright and dark, squillo, etc. Yes, absolutely. So here's what I think. When I think of some qualities of great high notes, I think balanced, obviously, flowing, powerful with the ability to be soft as well, equalized with the range. What are some other things that you think of when you think of great high notes, or that you might feel when you're singing a good high note? And I'll wait for you to write question or comments in the chat while I keep going. So the thing that I want to talk about is dealing with the idea of aesthetics, because as you can tell, all of those examples were great. Like there was not one that was not great. Now, you might prefer one to another. That singer touches you, or that timbre somehow just gets you. But you cannot say that any of those notes that we witnessed were not great. Okay. So vital, freedom, resonant, ringing, vital, unforced, informed by the dramatic impetus of the moment. I love that. Yes. Great high notes should sound effortless. Yes. Connected, grounded, excitement, resonant. I'm not seeing others' comments. Are you seeing mine? Oh, yeah. This is broadcasting into like different spots. That might be why, Kim. I think maybe you're seeing some comments from somewhere. Yeah. So great high notes. So when we talk about that, we always have to think about aesthetics and with each person's voice. And there is not one aesthetic that makes a great high note, but that does not mean that great high notes don't share a lot of the same qualities, because they do. But one thing I want you to keep in mind as we work over these next 3 days is that your instrument, the strengths of your instrument, and the aesthetic of your instrument are going to influence the quality of the high notes. Now, someone you're singing for may prefer a different kind of high note, but if you're trying to work against your nature and work against the natural aesthetic of your instrument in order to put yourself in a box to create that high note that person might prefer, you're never going to succeed, and you're going to run into a lot of difficulty with your instrument. So as we work over these next 3 days, I really want you to think about that idea as we move forward. Okay. Yeah, guys, if you're not seeing other people's comments, I apologize. It's StreamYard by accident. So we're broadcasting in a couple different spots, and that might be why you're not seeing things. Yeah, if you head over to the the high note challenge group, you can like log in, and I think most people are there. Okay, so now I wanted to tell a little story about this and talk about working against your natural aesthetic. And I just want to talk about my very quick trajectory from what my voice naturally is and was, and then kind of what might have gotten me off track a little bit to what I had to figure out later on. So when I was 15 years old, I started studying classically. And I remember within my first 6 months, my mom was all into it. She took me to this old Italian couple that was living in Florida, Central Florida, where I grew up. And she had me sing for them, basically. We just went over, we had some tea, I sang for them. And the man, who was a maestro and a tenor, he must have been about 90. And he says, "You are a young spinto soprano." I didn't know what that was. I was like, okay, this sounds good, fine, whatever. And it didn't mean much to me at the time, but my teacher in high school was also kind of training me in that with one ear to the future, like that's probably what I would be. Then fast forward to college, I always had trouble with my top, always. When I was younger, it was a very strong voice, but just trouble in the top. And I got to college, and my teacher there was like, "Well, you're probably a mezzo because, you have problems with your top." So first year I sang mezzo, and then I found this area, this place that I could just play in. And I would sing the Doll aria, Queen of the Night. It was almost like a whistle extension. And when I was about 20, I figured that out. So I decided that now I had high notes, so I would make myself a coloratura because I had high notes. So I just decided that's what I was. Forget about consulting teachers or anything. And you know what? When I was 20, teachers didn't really argue, right? She's singing lighter stuff. It's fine. She's not trying to sing Tosca. This is good, right? Most teachers would agree. But I want you to pay attention to this part of the story, because if you are a bigger voice in disguise, which I think it's a little bit more that problem than the other one that teachers would like you to think, that people are trying to make their voices too big. I think that there's also a problem where people are trying to make their voices too small and pulled up. And so if you kind of are resonating with this part of the story, I want you to listen very carefully. So for years, I started singing in this like lyric coloratura repertoire. And because I was young, it was working, right? Like things were working. I sounded good, was winning competitions. I was, getting job offers, things like this. And so anyways, I continued on this path for a while until just things were not working anymore. And I will spell you the details of the story because you'll get more details later. But essentially what I figured out was I was singing with a completely wrong laryngeal position, and I wasn't allowing like my whole voice to be connected, which we'll get into tomorrow. So I did figure out that that was the wrong path and had to kind of connect to my full instrument. And when I did, everything worked much more easily. I really haven't lost any of the range. And I would say there was a period of time in the transition where I did lose some of the range that I had as a coloratura, but I really haven't lost the range. They're just a different quality now, and they're used for different things, right? Like I'm not going to probably sing E flats like I used to sing. So anyways, that's just a little short story to kind of tell you guys that if there are issues that you're experiencing, a lot of it can be you're kind of misfocked. Somebody wrote in, I noticed, somebody said, yes, at 15, told you were a spinto, but you're a light lyric. So see, this is another problem. Exactly. Anytime you are fighting the nature of your instrument, it's going to cause problems. So what are some qualities of bad high notes? I didn't want to start with the negative, but we do have to talk about this today to get a really strong understanding. And guess what, guys? I'm going to actually like put my ass on the line and sing some really bad high notes over Facebook Live today. So you're going to hear them. Okay. So no one wants to write about bad high notes. I'm going to tell you some qualities of bad high notes. And I'm not posting anyone on YouTube, any examples of bad high notes there. I figure I'll just be I'll demonstrate the bad myself. So we're not calling anybody out on YouTube. Okay, so some of the qualities of bad high notes. Yeah, screamy, screechy, flat, sharp, tense, strained, tight. Yeah, I had these spread, thin. I want to wait to see if anybody writes this. Was always told I was a mezzo and stopped singing for years. When I came back, 2 different teachers said, nope, you're a soprano. Tight-throated, pinched, pushed, uncomfortable, spread. Yes, absolutely. I haven't seen anybody write this. Nasal. Would anybody agree that wobbly is a bad quality of a high note? Lack of core. These are things that I wrote down. I'm going to wait for responses. Disconnected. Yeah, exactly. Disconnected. Tenuous. Yeah, absolutely. Tenuous is another good example. Okay. Yeah. So I think that there are some general qualities of bad high notes as well. Yeah, you guys would agree with wobbly. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I'm trying to stay on track here. Yes, lack of core. So have you ever been able to sing a great high note, like separate from the piece, and then you go to sing it in context and it just all goes to crap? Has that ever happened to anybody? I mean, I know it's happened to me. Curious if it's happened to anybody else. I'm sure it has, but I want to hear your experiences about that, because I'm a firm believer. Now, yeah, absolutely right. I'm a firm believer that high notes are an indicator about the registrational balance and the correct breath pressure or lack thereof through an entire instrument. Now, great high notes, if you're having trouble with your high notes, I'm not going to say always you have to revamp your technique. No, sometimes it's just misplanning for sure. Absolutely. Sometimes high notes can be dealt with separately because the plan going up to them wasn't quite right. But if you have trouble and we're working over these next 3 days and things still aren't really feeling great for you, then you might need to look more at the holistic integration of the instrument and the whole balance of the instrument and the breath pressure, because that can also be a problem. Okay, let's see. We've got some things here. Ooh, lots of good things. Okay. It's like I can sing it separately, but then the approach messes it up always. Yes. I feel like I get already so worked up during the piece that when the high note comes in the end, I am already so tense to let it flow. Totally. It's because as long as you, I can show these. Here we go. It's because as long as you connect to the phrase or phrase before. Yeah. Okay. Although sometimes it's also the other way. I can sing it in context. Isabel, I'm just going to show yours because this is really good for people to see. This is important. So everybody watch that one. Yeah, especially in slower rep. Oh, yes. Okay. That also has to be planned. My brain always gets ahead of my body. Preparation. I'm learning here. Kim, I'm going to show yours. I'm learning that the planning leading up to the note is everything. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So I want to say something triggering right now, and I say this with love because I've been there. But if your high notes are consistently not easy and consistent, there is a problem with your technique. Okay, listen to how I said that sentence again. If your high notes are not consistently easy and consistent, there is a problem with your technique. Why I say that is because we all have bad high notes. Okay, that is a given. Everybody will sing a bad high note. Corelli has many on there. I had to go find good ones, okay? But the point of the matter is that if every single high note you go to is usually a miss, that's going to indicate that the rest of the instrument needs to be tended to first, okay? And I really do want to bring this up because it's a tricky part. It's a tricky part to accept, but I want you to really be honest with yourself as we work through these next 3 days. And I had to be honest with myself at a certain point in time that when high notes were really difficult for me in this Bach transition that I did several years ago, it was something I really had to sit down and take apart completely. And it was difficult. And it was hard to accept that, feeling of kind of like, okay, let me go back to the beginning and trace the breadcrumbs. Yesterday in another seminar, we talked about being able to sing isolated notes, but in the context of the piece, we're back in a bad mentality associated with the context of practicing the aria. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh yeah, I don't think so. I think it can be a mental block too. Okay, Dana, do you mean you don't think that it's a sign that, yes, okay, I know what you're saying. I agree with you, Dana, but to me, mentality is part of the technique. And so this is what I wanted to talk about too, because we like to separate technique into physical movement of the muscles, right? And I'm even guilty of this too, because I love like focusing on the gym part of our technique. Like that is so fun for me, working out muscles and helping people do exercises like that. Like I am the biggest believer in that you will ever meet. But what I have discovered that is a key piece, if you neglect the energy and the mindset as part of your holistic technique, you are ignoring one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle. And I think that's what you meant, Dana. So I'm glad you brought that up because I was getting to the point. But yes, you brought it up sooner. Absolutely. When we watch these examples of these singers singing, I mean, I got tears in my eyes, I think like 3 times. And there's a reason. It's not because the high note was absolutely perfect. It was, but that's not the reason. It was because there was this energy exchange. There was this flowing, this freedom in the human expression that was coming through. So that is one of the biggest pieces when you're thinking about this. Okay, Kim says, for me, it was both a sign of issues, mostly registrational balance, but I had old beliefs that I was a mezzo and a lower voice and would never have high notes. So I became afraid of them and now working on healing that. Yes. Stephanie says, when I was in my 20s, my high notes were totally effortless. But as I aged, my voice went from being a light lyric coloratura to something more full with a strong middle as well. So that ease went away. I've been spending years trying to figure out the new voice. A lot of high still works and works better and is more connected to the rest of my voice. But fixing notes above a D6 have been really difficult, tricky, and frustrating. Yes, absolutely. So that happens a lot as we are getting older, you'll notice, I mean, for me, it probably started happening about 6 years ago, maybe even longer, like 7 years ago. I really started feeling a shift in my voice, and it was just different, right? I definitely got a lot more color to the middle, but then things needed to be balanced. Okay, so let me get back on track here. So 9 times out of 10, some of these, somebody else said about high notes when they were young. My high notes were easy when I was young. The more I know about the voice and the more I teach, the harder my own high notes are. The more I know how much I don't know. I love that. It's just this Facebook user, but please, if you don't want to be like acknowledged, send me a private message because I'm very curious about that. Okay, one of my teachers hasn't allowed me to sing above G5, so it was difficult to overcome this belief that I can't sing higher. My perfect pitch has been my worst enemy. Ooh, yes, I learned orally rather than physically. And teachers and coaches have always been frustrated that I know where I am. Yes, this freedom is difficult to find because we have learned to follow instructions and control the technique. Control needs to be seen differently. Absolutely. Okay, so 9 times out of 10, the physical problems of high notes, okay? Taking fear out of the equation, because that is definitely a very large part. Physical problems that are happening are registrational balance and or usage of appropriate breath pressure, okay? However, looking deeper at the problem, these balance and breath pressure issues may also go hand in hand with a misunderstanding of what the voice should sound like in the inner ear and fear and post-traumatic stress issues surrounding either past bad high notes or just belief patterns. Absolutely. There can also be, and I'm going to say this, because you're listed as Facebook user because you have to allow StreamYard. You have to like say, will you allow StreamYard to post your thing? That was me, Sabrina Learman. Okay, yeah, that's why you're a Facebook user because you didn't log into StreamYard, but it's fine. It's no worries. Okay, so now here's the thing. There can be a real agitation of the nervous system when the voice is placed right and the high notes are correct. And if you've been brought up in like great techniques since you were young and you're used to hearing this sound in your head, then it's probably not a problem for you. But if you're like a lot of people that have either had a voice transition or you've gone from this, period of being a lighter voice to being a heavier voice and hearing what that sounds like inside your head when things are correct, it can be very jarring for the nervous system to hear the overtones on the inner ear. So the justification of what's going on inside, because we like to say like sing on feeling and instead of the hearing. Well, okay, great. But that doesn't actually happen because our ears are actually open when we're singing. So it's not really possible, even though it's a great idea. The idea behind it is totally right. But I think most people cannot completely separate the oral feedback from the physical. So the oral and the physical actually feed each other. And I was reading in the book, the Bel Canto by James Stark, Bel Canto something, a history of vocal pedagogy. That's what it's called. They talk about there's a feedback loop that happens and the ear is actually managing the balance of the voice. Like it's proven in the brain that we are balancing the voice with our ears and with the auditory feedback that we are hearing on the inside. So it's important because we have to learn how to hear ourselves correctly. Okay. And it is challenging because we're not going to rely on our inner ears, but we have to come to a reckoning with our inner ears. Because if you don't, the sound can be irritating and you will sometimes try to shy away from it and create different sounds on the inside so that you don't agitate that nervous system. So you do have to sit down with yourself and say, okay, this is what it's going to be when I'm singing a correct high note, and I just have to deal with it. Okay. Kim says, yes, I'm old, LOL. But since returning to singing and having teachers work with me on high notes, my range has increased rather than decreasing. That's awesome. Yes. And that shows that you are absolutely doing the right things. So awesome. Okay. So now let's talk about some physical problems that we're going to be dealing with. And I'm going to give my bad examples now. This is a good time to do some bad examples. Who wants to hear me do some bad high notes? Okay, I'm going to do the tenor, like vincero. And if you guys want to practice this with me, please feel free. You are not under any pressure to do this. But if you want to just see, because I think it's often a good experiment to really consciously sing a bad high note, because then you will know when you're approaching that area of bad high note, and that will put it into your mind, okay, this is not a good way to do it. So I'm going to sing vincero because it's just fun, and you know, I want to be a tenor. So vincero. I know I'm singing it a key down. Okay, because I don't want to do a really bad high note on a really high note. That's not very, very fun. Okay, so let's do a bad high note. Okay, what'd you guys notice? I'm curious. Did you notice anything? I'll tell you what I felt. Let me take out one ear so I can actually feel that a little better. I'm going to even make a worse one. Okay, that was bad, but I can make an even worse one. Yeah, exactly. Tightness. Yeah, twangy, tightness, spreading. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I hope no one tunes in and is like, oh my God, this is not the course I signed up for. Spread, a little thin, flat. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now let me do another example of another kind of bad high note, because there's several varieties of bad high notes. So let's do this vincero, and let's try to, tongue pulled back. Let's try to really make this like beefy, like try to make it sound, you know, like big beefy tenor. Okay. Now that might not have sounded as bad to you, but I can tell you what that felt like. It felt like I was using way too much muscle. What do you guys, if you're a soprano, you lying if you haven't sung Nessun Dorma for funsies. Yeah, that's true. Overblown, tongue poke. Okay, tight, spread, flat, thin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Can you guys tell me throaty, wobbly? Yeah. So can you guys tell me like what you saw? It felt terrible. Yeah. Pulled jaw. Exactly. Force the jaw down. Yeah. So this is important. Over darkening. Yeah, absolutely. Almost impossible to do. Okay. So I want to highlight some of these problems with bad high notes. And they're, of course, so dark. That's not your voice. Exactly. So I'm going to talk about the problems, and then we'll talk about some ways to make some good high notes. Okay. So the first thing I notice, I like to work outside in and inside out at the same time, because that is very important, because we have this visual cue here when something is right and when it's wrong. I thought your tongue was pressing down the larynx. Yes. Tense muscles in the neck and jaw. Absolutely. Okay. So when we can see what's going on here in a good high note and in a bad high note. It's going to look slightly different for everybody. If you noticed in all the examples that I played at the beginning, they were all great high notes, but they all looked slightly different. And it was kind of based on how their shape of their head was, the shape of their mouth, how everything works together, right? So when you're working on this, you're going to need to find your own version, because it's not just one thing, right? Like it's not just one position. There are guidelines, right? So like within your own shape of your face and your mouth. You have to find what that is for you. But in general, a big problem is space mismanagement, okay? One of the things that I really believe in is we do not and should not make space in the mouth. Listen very carefully, the mouth. Here, we should not make space in the mouth to sing a great high note. And what that means specifically is that that tongue doesn't yank down to make more space in the high note. Okay, another problem is registrational balance issues, lack of connection to a relaxed low larynx, not enough head resonance in the sound, especially a problem for bigger instruments, I will warn, or sometimes not enough chest in the sound. Okay, so those are all things to look at within yourself, because everyone's going to kind of come from a different place in their technique. So I think you probably know deep down what it is. If you don't, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, breath pressure. Usually too much subglottic pressure. That is usually the problem 9 times out of 10. We think we are supporting, and what that support feels like is actually stacking up of air underneath the vocal cords. So if you feel like you're, this is a little bit controversial, but I don't believe in this idea of support per se, because the idea of support creates a condition in which we put too much subglottic pressure. Just think about it. If you're supporting, like, everybody just feel your abs, like feel that word, what that word support means. I mean, if it's not a problem for you to think about that word support, then forget about what I'm saying. But just give this exercise a try. Think about support and just think about what it feels like in your body to go and sing that high note. Okay? Feel that? I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of tension right here, kind of a lot of pull. Okay? Yeah. So that is, I always say engagement rather than support. That's my problem. Not enough chest versus not enough head. I need to connect both. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Also, another problem can be just a buildup of physical tensions while you're singing. So posture can be an issue. When we maintain the correct alignment, and when I talk about posture, part of my speech about posture also includes how we use the face. So the face is also included in that discussion about posture. And we want to maintain the correct alignment of the bigger structures of our body so that we don't put pressure on the little structures. Another problem with buildup of physical tensions is not allowing yourself to fully breathe between phrases and release physical tensions. So if you feel like you're singing something, and sometimes composers don't give you a lot of time to breathe, and that's why those pieces are actually challenging, because you don't have rest periods. Those rest periods are so important, because if you can take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, in between those phrases, you're actually restoring oxygen to the muscles. It's a really basic need of the body. Somehow we get into this mindset as singers, like, oh, basic rules of like our instrument should somehow be superhuman and we shouldn't need oxygen to the muscles, but you do. So really taking those times when you can breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth. Okay, somebody writes about support here. Support really bugs me, because when I try to maneuver my diaphragm to support, it hinders my air and makes me tense. Yeah. My teachers have me focused on taking in adequate air and moving the breath to inform the notes I sing. Yeah, I like engagement better too. And you know what? I will say this. If you're a person that just habitually over-engages, moi is it. Okay, that's just always been my default. It is not a problem if you just think, don't support. Like, whatever you think, if it gets you back to the center line, that's great. So like, you're not committing any kind of cardinal sin if you just think, okay, I'm not going to support on those notes. And to be honest, I mean, I kind of think that too. Of course I feel a sense of engagement in my body, but I'm not actively thinking about that. I say resistance. I like engagement too. Yeah. Okay. So another thing that we talked about earlier is mindset, fear, panic, judgment too. Even if it's just really rational, you're not scared, but you're like, you know what? That could be a little bit better. Ooh, I'm getting to this part. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to manipulate. That kind of work can get in the way of free flowing air. It's kind of like if you're watching the accident that's happening on the road and you're not watching where you're driving, you might get into an accident. So it's kind of like that. So you really want to stay out of your head because that will affect the little muscles. It really will. Sometimes this can also happen, and we've seen this in so many great performances. Think about like the tenors cracking the notes, right? Is just too much emotion. There's like a buildup of so much emotion that you're not managing that level correctly. My husband, he's a conductor, and he actually always says, sing with a cool head, but a warm heart. And this is a great phrase that I always think about because there's like a line and you know where you can't cross because it's going to cause too much emotion in the voice. Okay, we have some things here too. Yes, when it's good, it's an organic support, not something I purposely engage because we know we're about to crack. Panic. Yeah, exactly, for sure. Okay, so now let me give you an example. So if we talk about this outside in approach, okay, an inside out approach, there's a quote that I love, and I think I know who said it, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I was trying to find it today and I couldn't find it. I think Stephen Smith said, it's not about how high you get, it's about how you get high. I think in his book, he says that. But anyways, I love this because this is something that as we work, especially tomorrow and on Tuesday, when we do the exercises on Monday and Tuesday, I want you to really focus not on how high you're getting. Okay. Those of you who were with me in the Whistle Voice workshop, this is going to be a little bit of a different focus here because I will do a quick shout out to Whistle Voice, but I want you to be thinking not about how high you're getting, but about the quality of the high note. Okay. So if that means it's only G for you, that is fine. If it's a damn good G, then consider that a win because that is the important part. Of course, and this is where I want to put a little disclaimer, a little asterisk here, because there is this problem that happens. And you see this a lot in great singers, particularly when they bumped up repertoire. They're bringing in too much chest in the sound. And so the sound might sound amazing, right? Like you get this world-class quality sound, but like they just can't hang. They like cannot hang in the top. Okay. So if you're experiencing that, I hate to say it, but you might have to let go of some of this amazing quality that you're developing in order to find a little bit more balance. And again, this is a little bit of a balancing act because then as you add the notes back to your range that can occur with ease, you may lose some of that color that you would work to get. But then as you extend your range, you can work to see how much color you can bring back into the voice. And when I say color, I never mean tongue depression. That is one way you never want to make color. When I talk about color, I'm really talking about connection to the bottom of the voice and also like resonance. Okay. So it's a real balancing issue. Color should not be made with the back of the tongue. Okay. Some people wrote in here, Dana, I sing better when I don't think. Not thinking is the struggle. Yeah. G is my friend. Could we just not have rep that goes beyond that? That would be helpful. Sometimes the sound is amazing, but doesn't ring. Yes, absolutely. And some of what I was talking about, making this great sound, right? There always is something missing, but especially if you're in a small room, sometimes people don't hear it. You'd be surprised the amount of coaches and conductors and sometimes even teachers okay, that don't hear that this is off. All right, it's amazing. Okay, I was always so terrified of bringing up weight to the top, and now I have too much head resonance. That happens. Listen, and don't get down on yourself about that. That is always a balancing act. And what you're doing, it sounds to me, whoever wrote that, I love that. I'm going to just post that up there, okay? Because I was always so terrified of bringing up weight to the top, and now I have too much head resonance. But what makes me so happy about this comment is that you were able to manage that balance of registration. So yeah, okay, you might have too much head resonance, but now you can bring back a little bit more twang and chest connection and probably have a lot more success. Okay, where am I now? Let's see. Okay, yes. So now I'm going to show you, as I'm talking about working from the outside in and working from the inside out. So I do believe that regardless of your face shape, okay, I mean, I have like kind of a wide face shape a little bit, and my mouth sort of opens like this, right? Okay. So if I'm doing too much, it's usually not right. Although there are exceptions to that. And we can talk about that a little bit, especially when we're going into cuperto and soft singing and stuff. But in general, the inside, the tube inside and the tube outside will slightly reflect this. It is going to be narrow, okay? You want that this way, the tall, okay? Tall and thin, not this kind of spread feeling. And again, I'm talking, just to be really clear, this is not Whistle Voice Workshop. So we're talking about regular grade high notes, not super alt high notes. For coloraturas, I will give you a shout out right now because this is a little bit, there is a little bit more wideness that can come in with a coloratura voice. But I think it's important to start from that thin place. And then of course, as you get up to the super alt notes like D and E flat and E, it will need to widen. Although I have seen some amazing singers not have to do that. So you have to experiment with how it feels. And this is again, the thing that I want to drill home and I want you to think about. I don't care what anybody says to you. If somebody says that it is a great sound, or you should do this, or you should do that, you need to be comfortable with how it feels in your body at the end of the day. If it doesn't feel right, well, a couple things. Sometimes you do need to just practice it, okay? And this is where you have to really be honest with yourself. If you are feeling like your whole technique is kind of, you're not so certain, then I would say give it a try. But if you're really in touch and you feel like this is a little tweak that I need to do, and when I sing a high note this way, it feels good, and this way it doesn't. Now, I'm not saying that the way that it feels good is perfect, but I'm saying that's the starting place that you want to go from. You want to start with the feeling of ease, what that is in your voice, and then you can build from that point. You don't want to start with the hard thing and then try to make that work for you, because you're working against your nature, and also your body knows where it can set up correctly. Bringing up weight to the top means that you're using more chest, or is it a different thing? In my feeling about bringing up weight, when I say bringing up weight, I am referring to bringing too much chest to the top. The balance of registration is not correct. Now, you can think of it two ways. If you've got ingredients, you've got like this, heavier mechanism, fuller engagement of the vocal cords for those who are voice ped nerds, right? Fuller engagement of the vocal cords, i.e. chest voice, and you've got your head resonance, okay? So the usage of the cricothyroid muscle, right? That's very important. So the muscles have to be balanced. So if you want to engage more chest tone into the high note, that's fine, because a lot of bigger voices do that. but it has to be balanced out with the correct amount of head tone or it will not be a balanced sound. So sometimes that does take a little bit of work. And usually in that situation, you've got to work out the head voice a little bit more. I say usually because there's always voices that have to do the opposite. But so as long as there's a balance of the two musculatures as you're going up, then it's okay. So I guess what you could say is too much chest in terms of the ratio to the head tone. Does that make sense? Okay. So now let me give some examples of better approaches to high notes. So let's use our vincero example. All right. Vincero, right? So we want to kind of maintain for me, okay, this is for my instrument. I have to make sure I have this lift, and most people do, all right? You want to have this lift here. The embouchure will generally be tall, but again, depending on how your mouth opens, it's going to look different for every person. Now, for me, the most important note is that vin, okay? So that note is where I need to focus my balance. If I feel that, I have to take this out so I can hear myself. Then I can feel that that's that balance of light and dark, right? And I could cut off easily, which is also another indicator whether I'm in the correct balance. So to me, that's where I always look when I'm looking at good high notes versus bad high notes. Again, everybody's aesthetic is going to be different. Some people might prefer a darker high note. Some people might prefer a brighter high note. Some people might, but I can tell you that within my own instrument, that is comfortable. That is comfortable. It's flowing. I can do dynamics. And so there. So now if you look at the difference between, let me do the bad example again so you could see, okay? So what I do on the bad example is I overweight the first note. Pressurize it. Okay? So we lost some of the overtone. And somebody said before that I pull my tongue back on that one. Yeah, but I think the tongue pulling back in that case is a side effect of what's happening with the resonance. So now let's do the over dark one. We darken the first one. Okay, obviously I'm pushing down my larynx, like not a good situation. Feels like crap. So Goldilocks tail. Let's look at this one. Okay, so you can see that the first example to spread, second example to all right, to dark, to pull down. Third example was kind of like a mix between both of them, right? Does anybody have any feelings on balancing issues with high notes? What are some things you think about in terms of how to balance your high notes? Any questions on anything else? Happy to talk about, but tomorrow we're going to get into exercises, so don't worry about that. But I wanted to set you up with a foundation of the idea of what good high notes are and what ingredients go into that and what we're going to be dealing with. Okay, anybody writing in questions? No comments? Everybody's quiet. Yeah, so if you want to take this time, you can try these. I mean, it's not awesome to do like a bunch of bad high notes because like it's not awesome, but sometimes it's good feedback. So you're like, that doesn't feel awesome. I'm not going to do that again. Okay. I don't see any comments happening here. Yeah. So basically, as we're working, I want you to ask yourself, oh, and I forgot to tell you about homework for today. Actually, this is very important. Okay. So I just don't know how to use the superior part of my head properly. Like, you mean this part of the head? Oh, this is going to be something we talk a lot about. Okay, hold on. I'd love to hear more about how to activate the cricothyroid muscle. Okay. Head voice. It's a lot of info to absorb, so I'm just drinking it all in. Okay, so here's your homework today. I want you to write a post in our group, and there's bonus points. Also, I have to give a shout out to the whole competition, the challenge part of it. Okay, so if you want a free session with me and or scholarship to my upcoming program and a free ticket to my seminar in December, there's competitions for all of this happening. It's in the group, and so you will see the Google Doc, and you can keep track of your points. So there's different ways that you can earn points. As when you watch this live or watch it as a replay, you earn points. You earn points for doing your homework in the group, and you earn points for tagging me and doing hashtag High Note Challenge on your social media on Facebook and Instagram. So these are the ways you can earn points to get these awesome free prizes. And your homework for the day to post before our session tomorrow is, and also I should say, you can get the homework done before the end of the challenge. So as long as it's done by the third day, all the homework can be done before the end of the third day. Okay, so your homework is to write a story. I actually want you to write a story about a time that you sang the best high note of your life. And it does not have to be on stage. It could have been in the practice room. But I know that each of you have that memory and have that story inside of you where you can tell and say, okay, I remember these feelings from that amazing high note. Okay, the next thing that I want you to do is, and this part is for you only. So this part you don't have to share in the group unless you want to. But the second half of this is I want you to write in detail a story where you sang the worst high note of your life in public. Okay. And I will tell you my story. I'm trying to think I remember my worst high note in public. I'm going to tell you it right now. I was singing for an agent. And this was right at the beginning of my FOC change, actually. And I'd never had problems with this note before. And this was kind of like the beginning of the problems, right? You know, like an athlete, they start to notice little things. So I was singing Traviata and got to the end and I had to like scream out the E flat. It was so bad. It hurt. It was like terrible. It was just awful in public, right? No less. And the agent said to me, he was like, why would you sing the E flat? If the rest of it was so good, why would you even sing the E flat? And I was like, I was in such shock and horror because I couldn't believe that came out of my mouth. And I think I said, you know, of course, the thing we're not supposed to say, I was like, literally, that's never happened to me before. And he's like, oh yeah, sure. You know, like, and I'm like, no, really. And I remember that time. So, it was horrible. But I really had to do a lot of mental work to kind of get that out of my system because that was blocking a lot of my progress. And the thing is, once you have an experience like that, it could stay with you. So there is a bit of post-traumatic stress. So I want you to think about and write down, if you're brave enough to share it in the group, I'm thrilled. That's a beautiful thing. Anything that goes on in that group stays in that group. Nothing gets shared outside. So feel like it's a safe space, but if you don't want to share that, that's totally fine. But I do want the homework posted about the best high note you've ever sung and the feelings. And if you can recall even what the room felt like what the sound felt like bouncing off the walls, or what the room smelled like, even anything like that. Okay. As many sensory experiences that you can recall about that. And for bonus points, if you have a recording of one of the best high notes you've ever sung in your life, post that in the group too. Okay, and that's also a bonus. So the base homework is just the written assignment, but if you want to do the other ones, you got bonus points. Okay, so you can add on the points to those assignments. Let's see. Okay, I've never had whistle tone, so I feel that my high notes have no choice but to be connected. And when they don't work, I don't always know where to go back with the rest of the voice. That sounds like my worst story, singing Traviata in a competition again, and the E flat splatted. Yeah, it's the worst. Have you ever sung Violetta on the stage? The E flat wasn't written in the score by Verdi, so it's optional. Yeah, I've sung the role about 4 times. I don't sing it anymore, but yes, the last 2 times I did not sing the E flat because they were happening during my Bach transition. But yes, an agent told me I had a beautiful voice, but wasn't enjoying it. LOL. That was an eye opener for me. Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. I have so enjoyed our time here together. And again, please keep track of your points in that Google Doc. If you have any questions and you're like, how the heck do I work this thing? Just message me. It's very easy. And I'll give you some tips about how to do that. I'm not a tech guru, but I can guide you around a Google Doc. So post your homework in the group and I will see you back here, same time, same place. Tomorrow, we really are going to sing. So if you can always do the exercises later on replay, but it's always great to have feedback about what's happening in real time. So we will do some exercises and some balancing work tomorrow. All right. So, oh, you're welcome, guys. You're welcome. So glad to have you here. Okay, I'm going to end my broadcast now. So I will see you all later.